Boardgamers.
That's it, Ryan. You're the Ryan. I went, before I put my foot in my mouth, and say, "Hey, you're the Ryan from Bridge City," you'd be like, "No."
Cardboard cohorts.
Norm's crazy concoctions.
Yeah, which I like.
Nice. I love having you guys on. Norm was so much fun talking about Cronkle? What was that game he talked about?
Crokinole.
I can't pronounce it. It's Gronkowski. Yeah, and I really want to have you guys back on more often because it's so entertaining to have you guys on just to talk, man. It's great. And I like making Norm say I'm sorry over and over again. That's like a fun drinking game.
Tough. Yeah,
no, it's not very tough.
So we got Murr in our that's watching our episode, and it looks like it's Norm. I think Norm is here for you.
Oh, did he get in?
Did he watch Ryan crash and
he's
burn?
gonna come and harass you. What do you guys throw at each other? Do you throw the toques? Is that what you call them? You throw those? You bring those to like.
Yeah. Those toques will get you every now and then, especially the ones with the pom poms on the top.
Well, since we got both of you guys, I was so Ryan, I wanted to start recording so that way TC could use this if he wanted to. But
I will. I will.
But I was hesitant to ask you how to pronounce your last name, and here's why. It wasn't. It seems like a straightforward last name. It would seem like one where if I had to say it right, because it's 3 letters. That's all, right? R-A-U, and I'm just like, okay, it's clearly Rao, but then I was thinking like, hold on, if you're Canadian, then you would pronounce the word about a boat, and since it's ow, the like my linguistics mind is going to like, okay, well, the linguistical feature of ow in Canadian English is pronounced O, so it's Ryan Rowe,
which is what every single student of mine comes in and says. They
say Ryan Rowe, or they say what I just said, which is
it's pretty much, hey, Mr. Rowe. I'm like, no, that's wrong. Ow! It's an ow sound, guys. It's ow. And then I do my weird Arnold Schwarzenegger accent, and
it's all good.
Ryan Rowe. Yeah.
It's Mr. Rowe.
So kids do call you by the wrong thing because of that dialect difference.
Yeah. And I get weird variations too where they think that there's an L as they go Raoul. And I'm just like, you guys just can't read.
Nice. Well, I wore my special shirt for a fellow teacher. America needs public schools, and you could just add the word. Yeah. First of all, we don't own the word America here in the USA. It is not like, no, you need to put North America on top of this and it'll sound better. Or you could just, when I say America needs public schools, can Canadian people just be like, yes, we do? Or you have to be like, we do too.
Yeah, no, we need that, every single little bit of that as well. Like there's so many things going on right now in our system.
A lot of turbulence. Yeah. Oh, and there's a lot of strikes and everything going on down here. I haven't heard much about that. I would say this, though, that the big thing that we always talk about is standards-based grading and, like objective-based. And so many of the studies and the books that we have to read are like Canadian. Like it's like
we just went through that.
Yeah. You guys already have done all the work. So we're just picking up afterwards and doing
that's literally been my last 8 years.
Oh my goodness! I didn't mean to activate any trauma.
No, I just reinforced all those other things that I fell asleep during.
There you go. Well, hey, if you guys would, when you guys talk about, like what continent you're from, I want to hear it, not just America. I want to hear like Norm says here in our chat, which is America. Yeah, you guys, like we have no monopoly on trashy. Like you can be a part of it too, Ryan. All of you, all of your people, everybody from having the second largest landmass, right?
Right.
Right behind Russia, But anyway, it's just great having you on, and I feel like since we started the Longview, it's just maybe it's been coincidence, but like maybe it's just that I want to talk with people that I know are going to be friendly, I know they're going to be polite, I know they're going to be knowledgeable about their games, and so that's why I keep on recruiting Canadians.
I'm just happy when they show up.
Well, I can promise I can deliver on at least 2 of those things.
Yeah. I mean, if you're here, you're like 80% of the way from being successful for the Longview, as long as you show up.
So, can we just all agree here? Alhambra's a great game. Are we done? Do we need any more to the?
Yeah, I think it was great. It was. We're just starting. We didn't start. We already talked about this for like 2 hours. You just hit live now, Joe?
I forgot. Yeah, I just forgot to click start broadcast. We just did the whole episode.
Oh, but we got to do it again.
We're going to have to
Norm, I'm sorry.
This time, I think there's only one way for us to get all the way through it. We're going to have to do it all sarcastically. This whole episode.
Well, I don't know.
I've been looking forward to so much.
I guess, if I have to.
There you go. Oh, they're making a red-green. Red-green is an inventor card on the Steampunk Rally. Steampunk Rally's got it's like a bookmark-sized piece, and it is now red-green. It has a picture of the possum van and that like duct tape swan. Yeah, right? I think it's
and all the pieces are held together with duct tape.
Yes. It actually uses duct tape. There's a hieroglyphic for duct tape on the card. Like he's used duct tape.
It looks fantastic. I have to pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. So, but a great game by a Canadian designer, and I'm really happy to see that that he's drawing from like the best inventor, the
master who taught me all my tricks growing up as a kid.
There you go. Yeah, my buddy Danny's dad is just like that. They used to drive like a dozen shag vans that were all like the possum van without possums drawn on them, and yeah, they would have rigged up things that had duct tape. Like instead of they didn't have a fan like circulating through the car, so they had to like set something up in the back, and it was hilarious. They had like chicken wire like to keep your fingers from getting chopped off by like the exhaust fan they installed inside the car. Or inside the van. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it was. I know it was definitely something Red Green would have been very proud to have put together, probably with Bill.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, there.
All right, well, TC, whenever you are ready, sir.
I am. I've got the name of the game, all this information, so at least I sound somewhat knowledgeable when I start sticking my foot in my mouth when I start talking about it. I think I am good to go. Oh, and my Earl Grey is fantastic. Okay. Are we ready, gentlemen?
I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to a new episode of The Longview. The Longview is proudly sponsored by Game Surplus. Yay, Game Surplus.
Woo,
Game Surplus is awesome.
Whoop, whoop.
I will continue to be a shill. My daughter is now the official voice of Game Surplus. If you listen to the beginning of this podcast, she is quite proud about that. You're welcome. So, Game Surplus is a fantastic selection of games. We do have a nice code, so you can get, 10% off your order? Is that correct, Joe?
Yes.
And it does stack with other specials, if I remember right.
It does,
maybe.
Yeah, there's other promotions. Mm-hmm.
I am not responsible for that comment if it's not.
It's stacking. It's a good coupon. It keeps on getting new things added to it too. Our Longview podcast picks are growing, as are the other podcasts that we do, which we shouldn't talk about because it's not that podcast. But anyway, I'm Joe Salin.
And I am TC. I am joined by
Ryan. Joe Salin. Okay,
sorry, Ryan. I've already messed it up. Hi, Ryan.
Joined by me, Joe Salin, and Ryan.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Wow. He's gonna make it rowdy up in here. I'm sorry, man. You've already got all these. That I have nothing new. I have only all the things that people used to bully you with in high school. Because that's what I teach.
We could come up with some new stuff, I'm sure.
I think I've heard them all.
Probably. So, but you might notice how polite he is. That's because he's from Canada, because he's one of our cardboard cohorts. Before he was even on this episode, Ryan Rao of the Bridge City Boardgamers has been working with us as like a what's a cardboard cohort? It is a lot of things. It's
one of Norm's crazy concoctions.
Oh, Norm.
I'm sorry.
So Norm and Ryan put out some awesome content. If you want to check out, if you enjoy Ryan's take on the classic game we're talking about today, Alhambra, and is that really how I'm introducing the game?
Well, let me introduce the game for you, Joe. I have all the information. Tonight, we're going to be discussing Alhambra, which is a 2003 release, which fits nicely into our Longview canon here.
Yeah, it was 15 years.
Yeah, wow. It's designed by Dirk Henn, published by Queen Games. And if I remember correctly, it did win the Spiel des Jahres particularly, which I think was 2003.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is quite an accomplished game and won some awards. It has several expansions. And other than that, I don't know a whole lot about it. We're going to let Ryan take over and talk about this thing. So, Ryan, what is Alhambra? Help me.
Well, hey, TC, hold on one second. Sorry, Ryan. Sorry to confuse you. I just wanted to quickly finish introducing what a cardboard cohort means.
Okay, let's go back to a cohort. I'm sorry.
No. I apologize. You hear that, Norm? You haven't got a monopoly on apologizing. Well, Norm's actually.
Norm has the monopoly on apologizing.
I think he actually does. Yeah. I think he could do an angry apology and pull it off. And not get the person to be like, "Oh, come on now, settle down." So, being a cardboard cohort just means that we work together. The content that you guys create is something that, as the good, the board, the good, the board, and the ugly, the Longview sees a lot of value in. I personally see a lot of value in, as do all the people I work with. The stuff that you guys put out in terms of for educators. Which we all are educators, if you believe the adage that it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes more than just one teacher to educate yours too. Burn. Teachers strike back. All right, now mean tweets from teachers. Being a cardboard cohort just means that we're on the same kind of ticket with supporting one another. And the type of relationship that we have as media creators. And I want to see more of what you guys are making, Ryan. And you guys have delivered that in spades. In 2018, you guys have just been like making tons of content for both of your products that that will give you a chance here at the end of the episode to introduce on your own. So that way I won't do a terrible job. But I just wanted to say first, thank you, Ryan, as your cardboard cohort. The stuff that you've been putting out is really great stuff. Keep it up, buddy.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I can't take all the credit for it because it's actually Norm's brainchild, and I just kind of come along for the ride because I'm probably more passionate about games than he is, if that's hard to believe. So, no, but thank you very much. It's been a long time coming, and I'm finally glad that we pulled the plug. We actually started doing it because we were so afraid there for a long time to put ourselves out there. So.
It's really good stuff. I was telling everybody that I just listened. I was just telling you, I just listened to your guys' episode recently, and it kept me company while I was doing some yard work, and I got to learn Ryan's top 10. So, spoiler alert. No, I'm not going to tell you. You go listen to that stuff on your own. That is not my job, and shame on you for expecting me to. Not being a cardboard cohort. That's like being a cardboard cohorter.
Yeah, that's being a cardboard spoiler. You don't want that crap.
No.
Oh, okay. So we get ready to like shift gears back to Alhambra here a little bit. Okay. Remember, I was introducing Alhambra.
Yes.
All right. Alhambra's a board
game. Job of it before I stepped all over your toes, and I'm so sorry for that.
Now, disclaimer for TC: I played this game twice. First time I played it, I played a 2-player variant and screwed up the rules so bad that the second time I played it correctly, and then I wanted to go buy it, but the only way I could buy it was the only thing available was the big box, and I didn't want to spend $120 on the thing when I just wanted the $40. So thus ends my experience with Alhambra. However, Ryan, you probably have a lot more experience with the game, so why don't you please tell us what it's about?
Sure. I might actually just go back a little bit to this was my gateway game into the hobby. So when I first met my wife about 2011, she invited me over for a games night, and that's where I met my friend Ian for the very first time. And he came over, and knowing that he was being introduced to a non-gamer, he brought over the game Alhambra, and this was his attempt to get me into the hobby. He said this was going to be a new chance to get a new guy into the group and everything like that. And my very first reaction was, "What the hell is this?"
There's tiles and stuff. I don't get it.
I was like, I thought we were going to play like Monopoly and Risk for the night.
Yeah. I mean that moment. So that was Alhambra that you had that moment with. It was Settlers of Catan for me.
Yeah, that one came just a little bit after that. But yeah, no, he brought out Alhambra, and I don't know. And afterwards, that was the first game I sat back afterwards, and I was like, you know what? That was actually kind of cool. I would have played this completely differently if I actually knew everything about it ahead of time. And then I want to play it again. When she's like, "Oh, sure," and it was like a great couple. It was the first game that we bought as a couple. We got like the little just the standard standalone game, and then I learned that there was expansions. I was like, "What the heck is it?" I said, "What the heck's an expansion?"
What's an expansion? Start with Arkham Horror.
That was a pivotal question in Ryan's development as a board gamer. What does it mean to be an expansion?
What does it mean to be? Yeah,
it means all of the sunshine and milk and honey and rosebuds. Right,
so, yeah.
Ryan, big fan of expansions.
After a while, yeah, I'm a big fan of expansions.
Do you own all the expansions for Alhambra?
Yeah, well, I have the big box. So when we first, and I was looking at, you know what? Oh yeah, I said there's 5 expansions at the time. I was like, well, how much is an expansion? It's like, what, like $25 or $30 here? And I was like, oh man, but the big box is only like $80 here. Like, why would I buy 5 separate expansions when I could just buy everything for it, and I get like pretty much I get an expansion and a half for free. I was like, so I was like, okay,
they're
so
basically paying you to take that expansion.
So I just put my old copy into like a garage sale, and then bought the big box, and yeah, we mix and match all those expansions all together all the time.
Nice. So what are you doing in Alhambra?
So Alhambra is a game where we are kind of like merchants, where we're going to be kind of collecting money. There's 4 different types of currency. I don't know there are actually names for the currency. I actually don't know what the names for the currencies are. Does anybody actually know what the currencies are?
I don't know. I know that they're just based off of the historical currencies that would have been built by, used by different of the cultures that were all in this like area in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
probably
like
one of them is Reales, but I don't know the other ones.
I just know them as like yellow, green, blue, and orange.
Yeah, that's functionally what you need to know. Like, you need to be non-colorblind and you're good.
Yeah,
pretty much. So then there's these 4 currencies that you're potentially drafting every round, and then you use those to buy a building tile to add to your Alhambra. And yeah, and then there's always 4 different buildings out, one corresponding to each color. So if I have a building there that says a value of 9 on the blue spot, well, it costs $9 blue dollars, essentially.
Blue dollars, nice.
Blue dollars, yes.
Blue dollars, orange dollars, they're all the same. Just so, yeah. So on your turn, you're either drafting some money, where you can either take. What is it? You can take like one bill that's 5 or more, or you can take a whole bunch of small bills that can equal up to 5, which is always kind of interesting. I always found the old thing of, do I take a whole bunch of small bills or do I take like big bills in this game? Because
opportunities, right? Is different things will arise because it's the way the drafting line for acquiring cash works is kind of like somewhere in between Ticket to Ride and like it's like it's got its own variation. You know, Ticket to Ride obviously comes after Alhambra.
Yeah.
Like the way that you're actually acquiring cards in this game that are like the money is like it's based on the value, right?
Right. Yeah. Because like I said, you can take a bunch of small bills that add up to 5, or you can take one bill that's 5 or higher. Which obviously will let you buy the more expensive buildings. So I think these buildings go up to like 13 or 14 Alhambra bucks.
So it's an open money market.
Yeah, it's all just laid. It's laid out there. I think there's about like 4 or 5 cards that are usually in the display, and one of your actions on your turns, you can either draft money, or if you already have a whole bunch of money in hand, you can just buy a building tile to put it to add to your city. Or then there's always a third action too, whereas if you've already got a city established, you can redesign your city. Like you can either take away a tile and put it in your reserve to maybe move to a different spot later on. I think we'll get to those types of strategy play later. But yeah, there's really only the 3 actions you can take on your turn.
Yeah,
take some money, buy a building, or redesign.
Yep. And the whole point of like the way that this system is kind of spiced up a little bit is that you can make some pretty big moves in this game by being able to take multiple buildings, you know, being able to do multiple things.
Right. I remember you mentioning that this, sometimes you refer to this in your gaming group as the game is called free turn.
Yeah. So like the one rule we have that's not written in the rule book is that if you pay with exact change, you're given a free turn. So like if a building costs $7 yellow and you pay with exactly 7, that could be a single card that's worth 7, or it could be different cards adding up to 7. And that's why those like lower numbers, while they're not going to get you as many tiles, they're going to like they're going to make it easier for you to get the higher numbers. And then whenever you get a free turn in our group, you have to announce free turn. Like that's just part of it. Like if you get a free turn, you have to say free turn. Otherwise,
everybody gives you a big eye roll and like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, well, I figured we would try to maybe do something on this episode of the Long View to make it like kind of like playing the game of Alhambra. So like, you know, I've always wanted to use the button on Board Game Geek that says random game. And so I was thinking maybe we could do a long view inside of a long view. And so the random game is called Duel in the Dark. It looks like a promo expansion called Railroad Flak. I've never played with this. Have you guys ever?
This is new to me.
Well, what's it called again? What's it called?
Duel in the Dark. It's the dog fighting game from World War II. Anyway, that's all the more free turn that we have in this episode of the Long View. So Duel in the Dark, Railroad Flak. It looks like a great game, but anyway, the actual structure of the free turn in Alhambra is like to me, it makes me so giddy. Like nothing fills me with glee. Like being able to buy a building and be like, oh, guess what, everybody? I get to go again and do that again. To me, it just fills me with joy. And I bet I'm making you, Ryan, never want to play this game to me. You're like, I enjoy this.
Oh no, I go for the free turn. I go for the free turn every single time. Every single time. But I think the very first round, there's usually there's the scoring card. Before the very first scoring card comes up, I'm just stockpiling money. I like buy very little buildings in that very first round. I'm just stockpiling money so that in the second and third rounds, I'm doing free turn after free turn after free turn.
So it is kind of similar in structure than to Ticket to Ride, where
you can hoard cards.
You just kind of hoard the cards. Yes, we're cardboard cohorters. And so I want to clarify here in our chat, there's a question. The free turn is a rule in the game. That's might have been confusing by the way that I worded that. The only thing that my group adds is that you have to say free turn when you get a free turn. You're going to get a free turn whenever you pay with the exact change.
Right. And there's nothing more satisfying to be able to take 3 free turns in a row.
So being the math teacher, you've gamed out the system to where at the beginning you shouldn't even touch any of those buildings. Like, you know, you see somebody doing that, or you like, I pity the fool.
Pity the fool.
Who's going to buy? Like, it's like
you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. If I see somebody doing that in Ticket to Ride, if I see like first time I ever played public Ticket to Ride, I bought a 2-section like railroad connection between Kansas City and like I forget, but it was as soon as I played it, another player at the table who was not aware that I was brand new to gaming was like, "That move stinks of desperation." I was like, "Whoa, stinks of desperation! What did I just do?"
Yeah, you upset someone.
Yeah. You messed up his plan right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah, stinks of desperation though. That's it's always now it means something else to me. It means like when you don't know what you're doing in a board game and somebody wants to make you feel really bad, which is all they got to say is that move stinks of desperation. That's how you psychologically can conduct that. That's Norm's form of warfare, right?
Norm's form of warfare.
He's a psychology teacher, so it's psychological across table, you know.
Well, the way Norm gets me is that since I analyze things right from the get-go, he just talks to me about he just talks to me during my turn.
Just keeps the stream of consciousness going constantly.
I said, do you want this game of the Grizzled to take an hour? Stop talking to me.
You must play a lot better than I do at that game because we lose that one pretty quick.
Yeah, usually if I can last more than 2 rounds in that game, I'm doing something crazy. But yeah, what I always wonder in Alhambra, because of how great it feels to get a free turn and how much it feels like I'm kind of ignoring the actual gameplay here because I'm just trying to collect enough money that way I can just, you know, chain together and do like that perfect sweep of a turn where there's 4 buildings out there in 4 different currencies. And I'm pretty sure that if you ever buy all 4 buildings at the same time, it doesn't matter at all in the rule book. But I want to just house rule it that like you win. That's like a second.
Game over, man.
Yeah, that's it. Like, oh, you know, everybody has to like shake your hand. You get to write your name on the inside of the box. Very loud.
That's only if you don't ever want to play the game ever again. You get to write your name on the inside of the box.
You actually get to, you sign the physical components that you used when you did it. Like you actually put your name on all the buildings that you built. And now it's your copy. Like you get to go home with it. Kind of like they clip the net for basketball champions. They will actually give you that copy of Alhambra if you ever win all.
Well, it sounds like our next step in Alhambra Legacy.
There you go. Yeah. Where's that? 5 expansions and none of them were Legacy? Wow. It's almost like this was made 15 years ago.
Weird. Yeah. Is this the game where if you build I'm trying to get up to speed on the game. Is this a game where you build the tiles in front of you and there's they have the wall you have to like deal with when you put these tiles down and build your city? Oh man, that's like the most frustrating thing. You like pull off this. I remember you like pull off an epic sweep of stuff. You're like, I don't know how I'm going to put these out. There's walls.
Well, exactly, yeah, because they restrict you when you buy a tile. It has to you can't just orientate it however you want to make it fit into your city. It has to stay upright.
Yeah,
which sometimes like the tiles are like a tile will sit there in the market for a long time because everybody's like, well, that's a crappy tile.
It's like there's no way that's going to fit in my city.
It doesn't fit in yours. It doesn't fit in yours. It doesn't fit in yours. Yeah, okay. So blue is off the market for all like the foreseeable future.
Yeah, because some of them will have like the wall printed on all like 3 of the 4 sides, right? And so it basically has to be placed. You're not always going to have to play the tile that you've purchased immediately. Right. You actually do have like a little bit of a place that you can keep one tile if you so choose, but you know, then you have to take the action of placing it right later on instead. So it's kind of like, you know, it's still not efficient action wise because this is one of those games where like the most important resource that you have might seem like it's your money cards, but like it's really your action for your turn. You know, it's like it's the one that goes one step before you even have the money. Like how are you going to get the money? Well, you got to be able to manage your resources, and the main one is your turn. So Yeah, I really appreciated the element of building there. Go ahead, Ryan. You take it.
Yeah. Well, I like the wall aspect because, well, as the math guy here too, I like the spatial puzzle of being able to try to figure out, well, okay, 2 turns ahead, if that tile is still in the market there, okay, I'm going to take this tile over here, and I'm going to put it right here because then it's going to allow me to connect that. Well, why are we caring about a wall? Well, because the wall is going to score you bonus points.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Every scoring round, you count up whatever your longest wall is, and you score that many extra points. So if you have a wall that's like 7 segments long, uninterrupted, well, then you're going to score 7 bonus points at the end of that scoring round.
And the nicest thing about that is how it layers just on top of everything else that's happening. Like it's just that's a push and pull that you're always going to be hoping to puzzle in the rest of the game elements too. So because you're not like when you're buying these buildings, it's nice to have them in your own area, but it's like the amount of buildings that you actually have is only important in relation to other players.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because if you play this at a smaller player count, you're going to have a very large Alhambra in front of you. Whereas if you play this at max player count, I think I got 6, you're going to have a very, very small, limited amount of tiles in front of you. It was funny when you mentioned about if you sweep the board, you should be able to automatically win. We play that you should get like extra super bonus points if you're able to completely enclose your city.
That's it. Game over.
My wife can do it. My wife does it lots.
Well, then that's when you just drop the mic and sit there and be like, count up my points, boys.
Yes.
Right. So, and then like also part of the scoring round is that you're looking for the majority in the certain colors of the tiles, because I think there's 6 different colors of the tiles. There's like red, brown, white, blue, green, purple.
And they all have names as well, which, like names, like I think they use the name arcade, which back in the Arabic, in like the year 711, did not mean video games and coins.
What? Shocker.
Yeah, there is no double dragon in this arcade.
Yeah, the others are like the palace and the market, and
they're really like the theme in this game. What do you think, Ryan? Do you feel what about the theme comes through to you?
Yeah.
There's buildings. There's pictures of buildings, right?
There's pictures of buildings. You're kind of building a city.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know. Just if I pay like certain amount of money, do I just get automatically? I get a section of a city built on, just like that.
Yeah.
Is that how it worked?
So you try not to think too hard about this theme, then.
No, this was for me. It's like a nice puzzle almost.
Okay, so more like a Euro.
Yeah, like I said, this was my first introduction to this. So like, I thought this is how all games were going to be. Like, there's just some sort of puzzle. Like, yeah, okay, this could have been like any theme could have been pasted onto this. We could have been in space building a space station.
That's true. I think that thematically, the different currencies that you're paying in is supposed to represent that it was so many different like artisans that were actually contributing to the Alhambra. So I mean, like at its very core, like the way that this game gets, I want to say like the sort of variable in this game that really creates the game, which is the availability of tiles, and that's done through like the system in which every tile is going to become available by the end of the game, but you don't know which currency it's going to cost, right? Mm-hmm. Like which depot is it going to show up in? Is it going to be in the yellow one? And that's all based, I think, around that idea that like there was many different, it was actually like the Muslim rule, which happened in Spain, in like the southern part of Spain, and happened for like hundreds of years, actually from like 711 until 1492. So imagine like almost 800 years. It was very tolerant. Like it was known for like its tolerance of different, like different styles. And so like they would have different groups that they tolerated all of them, which is kind of interesting because like, that isn't something that people always associate with other cultures. You don't think that like that tolerance was a thing for other cultures back in, this Middle Ages time period. So, but this is what a time when like the the architecture was flourishing with the different, geometric. You couldn't depict any like objects or animals because that's God's work. That's not like people's work. But I don't know, like what little of the theme comes through in that area, because it's definitely like the actual building of the walls in your Alhambra. Like, why is my Alhambra disconnected from your Alhambra? Why are we? Like, is this my town and your town? What's going on here?
There's different sections of town, right?
One suburb to another.
Yeah, it's like our subdivisions, except we would ultimately want to wall it off entirely. What does that say about us?
Yeah,
so,
I don't know. No comment.
Is this where you insert a building a wall joke?
Yeah, this is about time for that. Yeah. Building the wall. So you get points for building a wall in this game. Anyway, there's a lot more going on though. And like whenever you're trying to purchase a building, like Ryan, so if you have the right amount of currency to purchase a building, and that building is one that your opponent has like a fairly solid majority of, are you going to actually pass on that opportunity? Are you going to, if you can get a free turn here? So I think this game almost makes me into like free turn junkie, where it's like I'm not really thinking about what, where I'm going to end up in the long run. I'm thinking about more the instant gratification of that free turn, of that, like, I paid with the exact change. I announced it to the group. Like, I'm the man.
Well, for me, it's all depending on the tile.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be one that's going to help me extend my wall, leave certain sections open. Yeah, I'm going to take it every single time, even if I'm like going to be like dead last in like the blue building type. I'll still take it. I'm probably denying somebody else, probably getting either second or third.
Yeah,
but as long as it's going to, but now if it's a three walled tile, and it has nowhere to go in my city,
you're passing.
I'm passing.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way the scoring works here is interesting too. Like there's multiple scorings throughout the game, and they're punctuated by how quickly players are going through
the market cards.
The market cards, the cards that the cards that have your red dollars and blue dollars and yellow dollars.
Yeah, so like in the first scoring card, they're all there, but it's only whoever has the majority. In the very first scoring cards, so like whoever has the most blue gets, whoever has like the most brown gets 1 point. Whoever has the most white gets 2 points. Whoever has the most purple gets 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll go through the market phase again, and then eventually a second scoring card is going to come out, and now you're doing first and second.
Mm-hmm.
Where now the second place had the point values of the very first scoring round, and then the majority person now has something else. It's better now.
Yeah, significantly more, right? And so just kind of keep like the one thing that stays sort of the constant scoring, or I guess that's like an extra added, where there's points that are not just fixed, right? Because there's fixed points that are going to be given out in foreseeably most situations, right? Unless you ended up with a scoring that would happen before anybody possessed a tile of a certain color. Like for the most part, those points are getting given out in the same distribution every game, right? No matter how many players you've got, at least 3 players, because then you can do like a first, second, and third. But like the wall scoring is going to happen every time, and that's kind of like that sort of, how much do I want to limit my options in the future to score as many points as I can now, because I'm scoring those 3 times, right? Like 1 point on my wall in the first go is like worth 3 points of anything else, because you'll score it twice more, right? But so you said your wife usually finishes off the wall. What does your wall look like? Is your wall usually built in one specific section, or are you sometimes branching it out and trying to connect them back together?
Well, yeah, it's more often than not, I'll usually concentrate. I'll have like a starting point, and that's where like I'm just going to work my way all the way around and try to eventually make me pull it off. Whereas my wife, she's like working like in like 2 or 3 different directions at the same time, and then eventually she just like, oh look, free turn, wall finished. And I'm like, oh, good for you.
Yeah, good for you, which is a Canadian. It's actually a Canadian insult.
Because like, oh look, my longest wall is 8 points, and you just got 20.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But my problem with the scoring, at least in the base game, is that it's always the same. Like there's the same preference, I guess, the preference in the colors. Like there's always the one that's worth the lowest amount of points.
I think that they're based on how many there are.
Yeah, there's like some of their like worth, like the purple ones are the palaces are worth the most. There's not as many of them, so if you have the majority, you can. I like what one of the expansions does is that it changes the values, it changes the worth of what the different colors are in each of the scoring rounds. So in the first round, maybe purple is not as much, but then in the last round, purple's then worth the most. And it just kind of changes the order of what.
So round by round, it will actually have different and you'll know that in advance when the game starts. You'll know how much it's gonna.
Yeah, it's part of a randomized setup. There's there's about like 12 little tiles that randomize the different the preferences of the colors.
Wow, yeah, that seems
slick.
Yeah, well, we always now will play with that one. That's a guaranteed expansion piece that we have to play with.
Very cool. Very cool. So the expansions themselves then, because I've only ever played with the base game, and we've played it a good number of times, different play counts. Yeah, it's just different, right? But we never did try any of the expansions. So you've actually played, like, in case anybody's wondering, Alhambra actually has won the award for having the most different boxes that have ever been sold that all say Alhambra on them. I would make the joke that like they came out with an empty box that just said the word Alhambra on it and didn't say anything. They didn't try to market it or anything. Just want to see if people would buy it, thinking it was an expansion. But that's actually a thing now. People just come out with like a big box that just holds the rest of the game and doesn't actually have any game in it, and that's okay with us now. And I've bought them before, so
yeah, fairly recently, huh?
Yes.
Scythe.
Yeah, there you go. Buy the box just to hold all the other boxes that you already bought. So, expansion wise, is there any sort of a tour through the expansions? How does your brain organize the expansions, Ryan?
I've got this prepared.
All right.
So Alhambra actually has like 6 official expansions.
Okay.
And each of them have 4 modules. So that it's designed so that you can mix and match the modules. You can play with all the modules of one expansion, or you can just say, hey, I just only want to play with 1 or 2 every now and then. So what I've kind of done is I've kind of listed off the ones that we always will include every single game, no matter what. And when I was actually making this, I actually realized that we've taken at least 1 module from all 6 expansions.
Oh, so
nice!
You've done the Stonemaier Games Essential Edition, then.
Pretty much. So, like in the very first expansion, there's what's called the currency exchange cards. So it's a new market card that comes out, but if you take it, then you have this one-time ability. It says I can use the blue currency as yellow currency. Or I can use the orange currency as green currency. And so I think there's 8 of them that get just kind of shuffled into the whole deck. And so those are really, really nice because I might be hoarding yellow currency, but the tile that's on yellow, I'm not going to I don't want that tile. I'm never going to want it. But if I have the exchange currency one that says, hey, I can use yellow currency for green, well, now I can offload all my yellow as green cards. Which is it just kind of it opens up. It kind of makes the play a little bit more flexible.
Yeah. It sounds like you could be collecting cards and not necessarily planning to use them towards what's available to all players.
Right. So the only catch is that if you take a currency exchange card, you can't take any other card in the market row. You just take the currency exchange and you don't take any values. So that's kind of a neat one that's found in the very first expansion. Another one that we use in the second expansion is the diamonds. It's a new currency that comes out, but it's a wild card. It can be used as any one of the 4 colors. So again, it adds that little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
So like a diamonds can be used as well, yeah, this the wild card. You can play it as whatever. If I'm not getting any orange, but I got a couple diamonds, well, I'm going to use my diamonds as orange then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just an easy one that can integrate no matter what game. I argue that the diamonds probably should have been part of just the base game alone, but that's just me.
It seems pretty simple, yeah. Just having a bunch of cards that you shuffle in with everything else that's like a wild currency.
Right.
But like it says here, no mixing allowed.
Yeah, no, you can't mix it. You can't say, well, I'm going to play a yellow and a diamond. No, it has to be just all diamonds.
Yeah, and so it also says here that they're worthless at the end of the game.
Right.
But
So when
I
you
don't
do
think.
that, yeah, when you do that end of game auction, the thing where there's a trigger when there's no market, or when there's no more tiles can be drawn from the bag, the remaining 3 tiles on the board get auctioned off.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can't use your diamonds in the auction.
Yeah, so the diamonds do not have a value, whereas otherwise at the end of the game, in a normal game of Alhambra, you play until all the tiles have gone out, and then when you can't refill the board, whoever has the most of each currency that still has a tile on display gets to essentially get that tile and can choose to place it or just let it fizzle and die.
Right.
Fizzle and die.
Because a lot of you'll have that like we talked about with Brian's wife having the finished off the wall, and you're just like, well, we didn't want any of that anyway, any of the riffraff, and we didn't want the arcade. It brings the kids.
Another expansion in the third, or another module in the third expansion is the change tokens. So if you overspend, you can actually get change back.
Oh.
Ooh, because that's normally
big.
a no-no. If you overspend, it's just like you're sad. You don't get a free turn.
It's wasted.
The game hates you, and
you didn't plan very well.
Yeah.
Your mother is disappointed. She wishes you'd call more, but most of all, she wishes you'd play better.
Yeah. So and with the change, so you get 1 change token if for every $2 you overspend by. And they're just, and this is randomized. So if I overspend blue by 2, I get to draw 1 token out of this bag, and it's one of the colors that I can then put towards a later build in one of those colors.
Oh, nice. So it'd be kind of like smaller values, I'd imagine, in the bag, like 1s, 2s, 3s.
But they're all just worth 1.
Oh, they're all just worth 1. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's just like now in the future, hopefully you'll be able to actually pay with exact change, because that's what this game is all about.
Yeah, getting that free turn on the exact change. So if you overpay by 4, then you get 2 tokens. If you overpay by 6, then you get 3 tokens.
Aha. So. It's like a shame bag, like the bag of shame, you might call it.
Yeah, you get a small monetary value for bad planning.
Yeah. Yes. Compensation.
And it comes with a participation ribbon for all players as well. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for playing.
And then in the fourth expansion, one of the modules is called the Bazaars.
Okay.
Which it's another tile that gets added to the bag, and what they do is that each bazaar tile has 3 colors on it, and it will count. You'll get bonus points every scoring round if you're able to put those colors around that market.
Okay.
So like if the example they have is the red, blue, green one. So for every red tile, blue tile, brown tile, and green tile all around it, you'll get an extra 1 point.
Oh, cool. So like now, whereas before the only spatial element you had to worry about in the planning of your Alhambra was the wall and whether or not you can fit new buildings. Now you've actually got like a spatial element to it. That kind of makes me think of a simple game, but one that I really liked, and it was an expansion that added this, but it's Between Two Cities, like a simple tile drafting game, and like the expansion added more specific, like this tile right here wants to be next to this type of tile and this type of tile, and so it's more like you have almost like an immediate recipe to go along with the overarching goals you have. Like it sounds really cool to me, and this is coming from somebody who's skeptical of expansions in a gateway game. But the way that these bazaars, so far, every one that you've described has sounded like something I would love to try, and I feel like I could see that improving the game for.
Well, I like the fact they're modular. I always love expansions that are modular. So like if you get more, like put in what you want and take out what you don't. And the fact that you found like a little bit in each expansion to throw in to make the game better, I think that's pretty cool. I think that speaks a lot to the designer.
When I was talking to my wife about this, she was just like, "Why weren't these things part of the base game by itself?" And I was like, "She's like, they don't really overly complicate the game." So I was like, money. They want to make money.
I mean, it's also kind of like one of those. I feel like so far you've told us about 4 of them. 4 modules, and I think you still have 1 more to go, right? In the 5th expansion.
2 more in this. There's one in the 6th expansion as well. That's not part of the big box.
Hold on. You mean my big box is not complete?
No.
All right, guys, we're going to have to pick this up at a later time.
Drop the mic.
Yeah, I'm just gone. But so back to you then, Ryan. So before I say anything, I want to hear about all the expansions.
Sure. So then in the 5th expansion was the one that I mentioned about with the scoring tiles and the randomized scoring. So that it changes what the values, what each colored tile is worth throughout the game.
That's in the 5th one. Okay.
That's in the 5th expansion.
Okay.
And then in the 6th expansion, the Falconers, they add these Falconer tiles, which also adds another spatial part where there's these tiles that are laid out, and they have 4 colors around each one of them. And so it wants to go on the intersection of those 4 colored tiles. So this Falcon tile might have 2 reds, a blue, and a white. And so it needs to go on a cross section of 2 blues, a red, and a white. And if I am able to collect sets of these Falconer tiles, I'm going to score points like exponentially. If I can collect all the different types of there's I think 4 or 5 different.
Each one is like a recipe, and you have to collect one of each type to get the most points.
Yeah, kind of like that. So that's another one that we always add in. Just along with the bazaars, it adds just that another spatial puzzle to when you're building your Alhambra.
And is the Falconers then the most recent bigger expansion?
Yeah, and that one came out in only a few years ago now.
Yeah, I think it was 5 years ago now, 2013. But I can remember when the Kickstarter ran for this. It was pretty. I was pretty new in the hobby, but I can remember when the Falconers was available, and I was like, man, I want to know which. It seemed like the big boxes are all just like, here's all the stuff you could ever possibly imagine for this game. And what I really wanted to hear all along, Ryan, was essentially what you just did. And so now what I'd like to do, if any publishers are listening, you could do a long view, Ryan Rao's Rowdy Edition, big box of Alhambra with exactly the expansions that Ryan says are essential. And that way I can buy that big box and tell everybody, yeah, it doesn't take up as much space, and it actually has all the stuff that anybody really plays with.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, here I'm going to blow your mind here then. So there was a recent Kickstarter for Alhambra, the Mega Box.
Oh no!
How did I miss this?
This was just it only just ended maybe a couple months ago now.
Oh wow!
So here I'll explain what the Mega Box is doing. So it's taking base game Alhambra, putting in all 6 expansions, plus the 2 promo expansions, which I don't have.
Okay.
But they're also increasing the size of the tiles and the thickness of the tiles too, to kind of give it like a deluxeified version of this.
Yeah, because I want every game to be so huge that it takes up all of my storage space by itself.
And then what they did is said, well, wait, we're not done there. We're not just giving you all 6 expansions inside this great big gigantic box. No, we went and asked a whole bunch of really famous designers to design a mini expansion to put inside of this box. So there's 9 little mini designer expansions that they're putting inside the box.
And if they ever got criticized for too many cooks in the kitchen, they just decided to hire more.
Right. So like there's a Stefan Feld designed one. There's a Uwe Rosenberg designed one. There's a Michael Kiesling designed one.
Wow.
So they kind of like went with like the who's who of designers and said, would you be adding a little bit of extra spice to our game?
Wow.
I also was looking on here. It looks like there's a Alhambra dice game that somehow integrates. Have we tried that sucker out?
I have not been able to find it.
Okay. Oh, not for lack of trying. Okay.
Yeah, we've enjoyed our Alhambra for quite some time now.
It's crazy to me how much stuff there is for this.
Yeah, so then I haven't even touched on, so like those are all the expansions that we always integrate.
Yeah.
Then there's like some of the expansions that were like, hey, we have like I found on BGG there's a randomizer, like there's a Google spreadsheet randomizer where you can just randomize the expansions that you play with. So there's always a few of them that we always say, okay, we're going to choose one of these things and then we're going to add it to the game as well.
Okay, cool.
And they're just like things that really increase the complexity.
Are they spread throughout all the expansions then somewhat?
Yeah. Like there's the one that's in the second expansion called the Camps, which is another tile that get added to the bag that you can buy from the market. But what they do is they go on the outside of your Alhambra. So there's like this camp settlement that gets established outside. And what it has is that it goes against a wall, and then there's an arrow pointing. And so it gives you bonus points every scoring round for however many tiles are in that either row or column.
Okay, cool.
So if you can get a whole bunch of those camps and then just start loading up those columns and rows, well, you're going to score some big points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It seems like, adding another spatial element is really cool. It brings me to like think about a game like Isle of Skye. I feel like this is almost a very early relative of Isle of Skye, which has like a variable scoring in which you're being rewarded for just about each of the things that you've mentioned so far. That Alhambra has a specific expansion to cover. Like in that game, it's like it's more like modular and stuff. But all the things that you're talking about adding are just like, wow, this is pushing you to play in a slightly different way than you ever would have cared about before.
Right. Like the base game is elegant in itself. Like I'm not taking away that if you just go out and buy just the base game of Alhambra, you're going to have a good time with it. We just got to the point where we played it so much because that was like our first game. It was one of the only games we had owned at the time. We had played it so much we were looking for a little bit more. And then when I learned that there was like 24 modules of stuff out there.
6 different ones. Each, I think, has like, for whatever reason, they decided that 4 modules was like the magic number for each one of these. And each one of these expansions, like you said, I think was around $20 to $30, somewhere in that range, like $25, $30. But, like, and the base game itself is actually not a super expensive game.
No,
find it on its own. It's only like a $35 game, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's very accessible.
Mm-hmm. So this was your gateway game,
right?
This was your gateway game. Do you think? I mean, obviously, like that's gonna speak volumes for like you're eventually now on the long view. It's all come full circle for you, Ryan.
It's come full circle.
After tonight, you can just retire from board games.
Like, I'm done with Alhambra. I've done.
Yeah. Once you've done the long view episode about the game that got you into board gaming, that's it, man. That's it.
There's nothing else to do.
It's the lifetime achievement episode. It's like you don't give a lifetime achievement to anybody unless their career is finished. No, but the thing is, like, this game as a gateway game. Now, how did, like, your first steps, you felt like, okay, well, every game's going to be like this. Like, to what extent, what are the benefits? What are the things that you see here present in Alhambra that make it a great gateway game, a great game to get people in, but then also give them a taste of what there might be on the other side of the hobby door?
So one of the very first things that I saw was how easy it was to teach. Like when my friend Ian was explaining the game to me, it was very Elliot. Like he's like literally, okay, when he sat down, he's like, literally what you're going to do in your turn is you got one of 3 options, and the third option is not available to you right now.
So just one of 2 things to start with. Nice.
You're just doing one of 2 things to go. He's like, you either take money or you buy a building. Hey, do you have any money right now? Yeah, you do. Do you want to buy a building? No. Okay, take some money.
Yep.
And then I'm like, okay. So then I started doing that, and then it was just a very easy teach, and the gameplay, it doesn't take a long time to play either. It's like an hour game.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, something like that. So for me, Gateway, that was, I always thought, okay, games are still really easy to teach, and they have relatively short playtime. Okay, I can get into this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're not talking about when I literally discovered Twilight Imperium.
Play that once. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, Ryan's top 10. That's all you get, everybody. That's all you get.
Yeah.
You know, and I might be saying it sarcastically. This whole episode could be sarcastic, but no, actually it's not. Like Ryan's genuine. He's Canadian, people. He can't be mean like that. That takes
Yeah, I don't think I have a sarcastic bone in my body. What you see is what you get, straight up.
We can certainly replace what needs replacing. Then
that's why Norm is such a great counterpart.
A guy that has a hard time joking with a guy that's hard to take serious. Nah, it's a match made in heaven. Or on The Odd Couple, either one of those, or in the Possum Lodge. So
keep your stick on the ice.
Yeah, there you go. We're all in this together. The other thing, like, I want to make an argument for Alhambra as a gateway game compared to, like, say, Ticket to Ride. I know that people love to play Ticket to Ride, but I feel like there are a couple, and you guys maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but there are a lot of sort of elements to Ticket to Ride that are just below the surface, to where, like, new gamers can end up in that situation like I was. You know, that move stinks of desperation, newbie. And I'm like, ooh. No. You know, I'm like, is it, do you smell fear? Like, what is this? You know, how long have you been playing for? What is this hobby? And why do I not belong in it? The thing is, like, here in Alhambra, yes, there are elements to the game that make it so that experienced players can, you know, like you've got certain sort of methods to your madness, Ryan. Like, you've got a certain sort of template that you generally build your wall. And I feel like I play like a mixture of yours and your wife's, where I mean to just build a wall in one place, but then I got that tile because it was free. And when it was free, I couldn't say no. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. And then I end up with a wall that makes no sense and actually can't be finished. And yeah, and I've done that weird thing where you can do the interior walls, where you can build your interior walls so that they're touching each other, and it's like, that's okay. And I end up just wasting walls. Like mine is just like a whole bunch of walls that separate nothing. You know, it's kind of like the U.S.-Mexico border. Anyway, the thing is,
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to it too. Just totally sarcastic. Anyway, whatever. The thing is, though, like, I never end up focused enough, right? I end up like, but I don't feel like that hurts that much. I feel like still new players enjoy their first game of Alhambra. You know, new players will be able to see that, like, it, you know, hey, I get that I need this wall, but at the same time, I need to be careful not to finish it off, you know, turn 6, you know, but when we haven't even done the first scoring, you know, as nice as it would be to go watch the game, which I'm assuming is going to be hockey for you. For us, it's, you know, it's probably like ESPN Classic, something that nobody even knows about. But anyway, to me, like, these elements that make Alhambra, as you said, easy to teach, something to get people off the ground, but then also, like, you know, offer you enough tactical differences in gameplay, like enough tactical things to consider that, like, every turn you're back to looking at your options, which are finite enough so that your turns don't go on forever. You're back to considering, like, what of these tiles is available to me. And I find that, like, these types of decisions, while they do tend to sort of ball up and make it so that like, well, at this point, I need to now be more intentional with my building. I don't feel like it has those sort of gotcha moments like Ticket to Ride does. That's like, oh, you didn't realize that in base Ticket to Ride, whoever builds a railway across Canada wins. Like, that's just how the game works. You just build the railway across Canada, and that person takes first. And then the other two players who were both like, stabbing each other over the Nashville to Atlanta route, and the whole rest of the board take second and third. But, like, I feel like it doesn't have those sorts of pitfalls that make it something where, like, players that have played maybe 5 to 10 games will trounce new players. I feel like in Alhambra, you still got a pretty fairly decent shot with, trying to min-max the puzzle that's in front of you. As you mentioned, like, this game is about a puzzle, and I feel like that's one that's not going to change so that new players are at such a huge disadvantage that, that they get ridiculed. Right. This is all like, that one traumatic experience. I've never recovered from it.
Wow.
And
you okay, Joe? You need some counseling?
How much time do you guys got?
Not that long.
It's probably the right thing to say to me. Go for it, Ray.
No, I think you nailed it on the head there, Joe. I think Alhambra does a really good job with the market system, as in, like, you can't just snatch up a whole bunch of money cards. You're either taking like a couple small cards, or you're taking like one big card.
Yep.
And then that one big card, it's going to help you buy the big tile, but also if a smaller tile comes out along the lines and it's cheap, but you only got is big bills, well, you're going to overspend for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I've heard people jokingly say that Ticket to Ride is for the first 10 rounds too off the top. Because it's just like, before you even play the game, just build a hand of like 25 cards and then start looking at what routes you can actually complete. Whereas here, like, what is going through your head when you're drafting currency, right? Because this currency, you want high numbers, right? You want high numbers, but there's that threshold. Like, if you can take multiple lower cards that all add up to 5, you can pull, up to all the cards that are available, which is either 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly either, but like, it's, what is going through your head, Ryan? When do you scoop up all the lower value ones? When do you choose to take a single card of higher value?
I usually go now with more experience with it. Early game is usually I'm snatching up lots of the smaller value cards in the early game. Like I said, like in the very first scoring round, I'm not buying very many tiles to place down. I'm building up. I'm building up a hand size in the beginning so that I'm going to overtake the majority in certain colors, probably in the second round.
Okay, so you're kind of taking a hit, but that first scoring is so minimal that it's not that big of a deal.
That's been my thing too. Is that very first scoring round, other than like the top 3 tier colored tiles,
like 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, you like really 4, 5, 6 points in this game is not going to break. You're not going to run away with it. If I have the majority of palaces in the very first round, I'm not going to necessarily have majority in palaces now for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like, there's a lot more of the game to go, and you don't know what tiles are going to be available when.
Yeah, so I go hard in the second and third rounds. So I use the first round as a resource gathering of sorts.
And there is no 2 off the top. There's no like drawing off the top of the deck, right? You have to take from what's available.
Yeah, you have to take what's available. So I'll snatch up lots of small cards early on just to build up a hand size. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we mentioned that. I think you start with money.
Yeah, you do. You start with a nice little amount of money. You mentioned it when you were talking about your options at the beginning of the game, but like the amount of money you start with is kind of randomized, right?
It is. I think you start off with something like you start getting dealt out money until you get to $15 or more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it might be $14 right now, and then I get a 9.
Yeah, like $23.
I'm starting with 20, but somebody else might get dealt exactly 15. They have to know that's what they have.
Mm-hmm. But then that's whoever has the least money gets like the starting player, right?
Yeah, they get to start first.
So kind of a balance. But yeah, it can be, you can end up with 23 to 15. There being like a huge difference. it's significant, but it doesn't seem to me like it's game breaking, really.
No, not at all. Not after the very first few rounds when everybody's just not really snatching up money.
Yeah.
So that you can buy some bigger tiles.
And another thing that's tough to quantify is like you can have $23, but if that $23 is in gigantic bills, like, congratulations, you're not playing the game of free turn. You're playing the game of you overpaid. Shame on you. Draw a token from the shame bag so you buy the shame expansion so you can draw a shame token from the shame bag.
Yeah, that's exactly why we include that expansion every single time.
Just so that way you can hold it to the person and like kind of give them a stern looking like
here's your compensation, tickle tickle.
I expected more from you.
We'll forgive you. It's your first time.
Oh, that move stunk of desperation. Yeah. Well, what's interesting though about it is like it does start you off with currency in different amounts, and it also starts you with the ability to just go right into building your buildings, you know, and actually get right into that. Now, as you've said, like that's not your style, but you know, when it comes down to it, would you say that players that do not adhere to the Ryan Rao school of the rounds 2 and 3,
money hoarding, Scrooge McDucking?
There you go. Does that? I mean, is that more of a play style thing, or is that more of a you've seen that it works, or?
I think it's just more of a play style thing. Like, yeah, like I've played lots of Ticket to Ride as well, where you just, you know, you build up that massive card advantage, and it can pay off for you. Yeah. It's just the same thing in here. It can pay off. Does it always pay off? No, it doesn't always, because it all depends on which tiles come into which spots of the market. I might have a lot of blue currency, but the blue currency tiles are just not working with what I'm trying to design.
Certainly. Yeah. What to me is really beautiful about the game is how it's like you could just build, like the game could just be like choose any of these buildings, you know, and not actually have like that randomized element that you were just mentioning where each building is going to come out in one of the colors. But like that's kind of like the beauty in the system is that you don't know necessarily what's going to come out where. And so it makes each turn that tactical decision that kind of I would say just drives the game forward and makes it something where newer players especially can get their footing underneath them and understand, like, you know, get a concrete idea of these are my choices and this is how it's going to impact the rest of the game. And I really do appreciate how that you can have turns and turns and turns of building towards getting the right currencies, but you're going to be still stuck with whatever is on display from the four different colors. And how often is it when you're really able to buy multiple ones of those tiles without first having to go to the market and pick up some money cards?
Right. Like if I'm doing the money strategy there, I'm often going like that's like 3-4 turns where I haven't bought a building and other people are starting to buy their Alhambras are already like 5 tiles deep and I've only got 2.
Yep.
I'm not going to be in on those. I'm not going to be in on that scoring right away or often, or I'm putting myself at a disadvantage at the very beginning. I also like that fact that it is randomized because it takes away a potential like a runaway leader in a certain color. A problem, like if somebody's going hard on the white buildings, they might say, oh yeah, I've got 3 whites. No one's going to be able to overtake me, but then all of a sudden they can't acquire another white building for the rest of the game.
Yeah, because it just doesn't show up. Yeah.
They might have been collecting the wrong colored of currency, and then all of a sudden they might be going like blue and orange, and then all of a sudden yellow. Next white building's on the yellow. They can't get it.
Which it really helps make this game more accessible. And that's where, like, you know, we're talking about a game that's 15 years old, one that's going to be primarily used, you know, for people that are like playing in a family, what they might call a family gaming situation. You know, this is one that's just, it works great with my wife as well, though we don't play the 2-player variant. We usually just play it with others, you know, with other folks. And she loves the simple and easy to grasp nature of it. and you know, agrees with what you've said so far about, you know, it like the introductory and how easy it is to get which of those 3 actions are you going to do.
Yeah, with the 2-player, we don't even bother. We play this 2-player. We don't even bother with that 2-player variant. Whereas you introduce that 3rd dummy player who draws tiles out of the bag at random. We just always just go straight up first, second place. for first and second all the way through, and it works.
It works. It sounds to me like you guys enjoy, like you and your wife both enjoy this system so much, and like it's like got that sort of sentimental value as well. I mean, like my question was going to be, does it hold up with 2? And I think you've kind of answered that, like, you know, that the game is solid enough for you that you enjoy it without any needed additions, like without any added complexity for a 2-player game. Because the reason that I feel like I'm walking on eggshells here, because this game as a majority scoring game, like whoever has the most of buildings of a type is going to score the most points, and then second most and third most. So the amount of buildings you have doesn't really matter. It's only the amount of buildings that you have that are more or less than your opponent, right? So like when there's only 2 players and you've got 3 places that you're scoring, it is like you're like, who's going to get third place? And you said that you just ignore it. But as a 2-player game, would you like if you knew somebody played primarily 2-player games, what would you say to them about like how Alhambra would work for them?
I would say, yeah, definitely give Alhambra a chance, because it works just so elegantly at just if you just do just the first and second. I know why they introduced the 3rd scoring player, because there is like the potential of having like a 3rd place, or like in the 2nd scoring round you could potentially not score because you're the 3rd place and the game system was the 2nd place. So like you would get no points, but your partner would get all of the big points.
Yeah, so the competition that's not there is the main, like, you know, well, there's nobody competing for you. If you get 1 tile and your partner, you know, your opponent has 2 tiles, you know, or your opponent has like 5 tiles of a type, you get 1 tile of that, and now you're scoring a significant amount of points. Right. But
because the game system, they just draw tiles just randomly straight out of the bag.
Yeah. And so there's just it's like playing with a die anyway, you know. It's kind of and that's, you said the 2-player variant, but you said that you prefer just straight up playing without.
Yeah, just do the first and second. The scores are a lot tighter. It's a lot more. It's a little bit more competition.
Any of the expansions? So first of all, have you played with every single one of these modules?
We've played with all 24 modules.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Is there any modules that you specifically think would work better at different player counts?
I know. I'm just kind of going to do a quick thumb through here. Definitely some of the ones, like there's one in the 2nd expansion that introduces characters. So like you can acquire. What happens in the deck of cards? There's like these character tiles that they have like this kind of like a special power or ability that gives that player. So when one of these guys comes up, then an auction starts. And so pretty much what you're doing is you're just bidding the number of cards out of your hand to try to acquire these characters. And the characters can be like really like beneficial. Like there's one character that says, hey, if you are tied, you break the tie in the majority.
Oh,
it's a one-time use.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a one-time use, but you break the tie in the majority.
You do that for like one of those purple tiles in the last round, and it's like, goodness, that's a lot of difference.
Yeah, there's just a character that's like we call it the free turn character, because you just cash him. you just cash him in, you get a free turn.
Nice.
And everything like that. And then there's ones that get you extra bonus points during scoring, gets you to take an extra card out of the market. And so the character ones, we introduced those ones at the higher player counts, like 4 and 5 player, because they just add a little bit of spice to like what's going on. It really makes people think about what the cards are in their hands. Do they want to give up cards to take out that really nice ability to take a free turn somewhere?
Yeah. It just gives more choices, like it's an extra added. It's an avenue that you could go down, but you don't have to. It's like, you know, will this pay off in the long run that you're forfeiting your turn right now? to take something in the future. And I mean,
and then there's another one where we introduced the higher player counts. It's called the thief cards.
I saw those.
So
they made me think that it would make me like really go, like just the idea of somebody stealing my stuff in a Euro game. It's just on my spine.
Yeah. So what they do is like you get these cards dealt to you at the beginning of the game, and they have all the currencies on them. And so even when it's not your turn, you can cash in your thief card to take a money card from the market row.
Oh, it's like you're sniping cards.
Yeah. So like if I know it's not going to come back around to me for another like 3 or 4 turns, and the very next card that gets replenished is a card that I need, whoop, I'll just take it. Thank you very much. So the thief cards really added into the higher player counts, like at least 4 player.
Oh, so because like to make it so that when you have that downtime, you've got something to be focusing on.
You're still paying attention to what's happening in the market, because do I want to cash in my thief card now? Do I hold on to it later?
Yeah, and the engagement just helps the game to continue to move along, because people aren't like, oh, it's my turn again. Let me reanalyze everything that's been available for the last 10 minutes, but I'll look at it all again. Yeah,
because overall, it's not a really highly player interactive game system. It's lots of really at its core, it's kind of like a multiplayer solitaire. The only really interaction that you get usually is like if somebody steals your tile on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the scoring being like whoever has the most. It's kind of it's a type of scoring that, like, especially when executed in certain game systems, to me, like, because ultimately what will end up happening in an area majority game like this, where like whoever has the most of a certain thing will get the most points. What ends up happening is like the late game is not so much like who's getting points, but more where are you going to take the points from? Like it feels like any point gained in the last part of the game in a lot of the area majority games is like you're choosing who you're going to rob. Are you going to rob Peter? Or are you going to rob Paul? And I know that it's usually robbing Peter to pay Paul, but inherently, by robbing Peter, you are paying Paul in a Euro game. You are just automatically, you have no choice. You're doing it. It's vicariously beneficial to other players when you interact with somebody. But here's what this one does. It's by having that snowballing scoring. Like it's not points that are coming away that have always been counted on. It's like, you're always analyzing who's going to get points and whether or not you're vulnerable. And if you left yourself vulnerable, like usually that has at least some element of your own, it's like your own fault stamped on it somewhere.
Right.
So I kind of appreciate that.
Another one that I didn't touch on yet, one of the modules is the treasure chamber. It's kind of interesting. It adds another scoring. Well, not a scoring time, but another thing that can get scored during the scoring round.
Okay.
There's these little like little treasure chest wooden pieces. They're in part of their own little separate market, where that you get, if you buy them, if you have those colors in your Alhambra, you put these treasure chests on them, and whoever has like the most treasure chest gets points. Whoever has the second most treasure chest gets points. So it kind of adds like another neat little thing at a higher player count when you're trying to compete trying to collect treasure chests to score these extra bonus points. It's a neat little module that we kind of incorporate every now and then.
And you enjoy it when it comes up, but it's not like. Here's what I feel like I'm getting from your characterization, right? That every expansion has like these 4 different elements. And it has one element that's almost like an afterthought. One of the 4 is like, this is like basically a promo, but if we package it together with 3 other things, it looks like an actual game. And it's like each one of those things, you're like, this is cool. Let's play with it all the time. And then they're like, okay, we're going to name our expansion after the weirdest one. And that'll be the one that nobody wants to play with because it changes the game in some bizarre way.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that one, especially with the 5th one, the Powers of the Sultan.
How so?
Because the Powers of the Sultan one, it adds these new market cards that can be bought, but they're kind of like a side market card. They're not part of the cards that are always available, but they're always on the side, and they always cost 7 It's always just $7 of whatever currency is on the card. But
Mm-hmm.
what all that card does, but it's actually a pretty powerful card, is that if you spend the 7, then you have this card, and it has you roll a die, and then whatever die face is showing, you can either select that die face or the one that's opposite of it, and you can take one of those building tiles for free somewhere in the game. On your turn or on another player's turn.
Honestly, that sounds like a bunch of confusing rules.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like I feel like there's a clean execution somewhere in this concept, but the way that they've specifically handled it, where it's like, here's an extra thing that you can buy for exactly 7, then you roll a die and choose either the side you rolled or the opposite side, and you can take one of those 2 buildings for free later on in the game. It just seems like, what is it really doing? And is it just like something extra? It's like 7's now a magic number for the game.
Yeah, it was like you spend $7, and then of course the free turn rule applies if you spend
cool. Well, since it's just 7 is the magic number now, it's like I want $7. Like every time a 7 comes up from the card drafting, because there are cards that are worth 7. You're like, oh, there's a 7. Who's getting the lucky number 7?
Yeah, who's getting a free building somewhere? That's exactly what's going to happen.
So that's strange. So would you play with that one again, or is that one that you tend to leave out?
Well, that one's kind of thrown into like the randomized.
Okay.
The randomized pile.
So you still play with it.
It's not near the top of the list.
Yeah, it's not one that always gets added in. Okay.
No. One that's part of the same expansion set is one's called I think it's called the Art of the Moor.
Yeah, the Art of the Moorish.
So this one it rewards you for buying tiles of the same value. So if you buy a lot of 9 tiles, then you can score like really big bonus points for buying like all the 9s or buying all the 10. I think the lowest one is.
This sounds like this is a bit of a reach.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because your art, like the base of the game is like, I want exact change. So it's like the amount of money that a tile costs doesn't matter, and making that matter, I feel like it's coming back to like, well, isn't the game mainly about trying to add up to exact numbers so you can pay them and get a free turn? And it's like, this just seems to me to be a little bit of noise to throw in.
Yeah. It really distracts players, because now it's like, hey, I've got 2 9 tiles. Well, I'm going to try to get a third 9 tile. Oh, then I'm going to try to get a fourth 9 tile, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it is. It's like that's so fundamental to like the core of the game, which none of these other expansions really. What they played with more is like adding a little bit more to the spatial aspects of the game, right? Or a light way to sort of mitigate some of the, if you overpay, you can get a little bit of a bonus out of it. But it's not like all these things seem kind of like incremental, and I can understand why they exist. This one right here just seems like we needed a 4th box to check for this 5th expansion.
We just need something just to fill it out.
Yeah, throw it in there.
I'm pretty sure that's like the philosophy behind the Queenie, which this is manufactured by Queen Games, and they pioneered the concept of a Queenie, which is a game piece that is necessary to no one's copy, but that everybody gets because you have to buy it in the big box, or it's that one thing that you can never complete your collection unless you totally go back to the drawing board, get rid of all your expansions that you've been collecting over the last 15 years, sell them all, and then buy the new Mega Box expansion. Not even
Mega Box.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because what they've done is they've worn out Big Box. Like Big Box at this point doesn't mean anything for Alhambra. It's like Big Box, and people say which one.
Yeah,
you got to say Mega Box, because that way you get a little bit more impact. Mega Box. Oh, that sounds like something that hasn't been previously released.
With 9 new mini expansions.
9 new mini expansions designed by 9 different board game designers, because having people design games that weren't their brainchild is, they are experts on this game for sure, because they've designed other games. Yes, so you speak more sarcasm than you let on, Ryan.
A little bit, yeah. I'm really quite hesitant, because I was like, yeah, okay, I'm a Stefan fan. I'm a Stefan fan. Stefan Feld fan. Holy crap.
It's okay. Use words. It's okay. We understand.
Yeah. But I'm like, is he just going to add more point salad to Alhambra? Is that what he's going to do? Or is Uwe Rosenberg going to introduce Tetris pieces to to Alhambra? Yeah. I don't know what they're going to bring, but yeah, it's just all afterthought at this point. Like we wanted to release a new edition, this anniversary edition of Alhambra, and what are we going to do? Well, let's just add what's going to be a big drawing point. Big name designers. Stefan Feld fans are going to want to get Alhambra now because they need every Stefan Feld thing that exists.
I can see them being like, everybody's played Alhambra. How can we use that to our advantage? Well, if everybody's played it, then all the big designers will be able to just send us a email with their mini expansion rules. Obviously, everybody's got an idea for an expansion for a module. Apparently, though, if it's one of the 24 that they've already published, which I just like at that point, like you're talking about 24 different modular expansions that can all be added and left out, and you're talking about adding 9 new mini expansions. Like, how much do you need?
Like, obviously, tons.
All of the expansions, says Ryan.
When you're like me and you've played all the expansions already, like, am I craving for more? Well, a teeny little bit.
Well, if it makes you break the game out again,
That is a nice thing about expansions.
And this is one that consistently still comes out. Like, we actually just played it just the other night again, just to get my brain working again. And I was like, we need to actually bust this one out more. I really enjoyed this one. Why don't we play this more?
Yeah, I had the same feeling with we just played Tigris and Euphrates this week, and I'm like, man, why don't we play this thing more?
Why don't we?
I'm there with you, man. You break old game out, and you're like, man, I'm stupid. We should play this more.
Well, why are we playing all these other new games?
Yeah, and you looked at even Tigris and Euphrates, like it's almost, I think it's a 20-year-old game now at this point, and you're like, wow, and it's still good.
Yeah, it's still solid.
Yeah, that's right there is the vote of confidence when you've got a game that got you into gaming and that you're willing to turn around and play. Like, to make a comparison, I've already talked at length about Ticket to Ride, which I actually do still enjoy playing, but Settlers of Catan was my intro in, and it's not a game, like, it's a game that when I play, like, I see the joy in new players, but I'm no longer interested, and the expansions to Settlers of Catan just add confusing stuff. Like, they're all like you can play, some of them are modular and some of them are like you got to play the whole thing, but almost all of them seem to add a lot of weight onto the game. And that's not the type, like, clearly the design philosophy behind Alhambra expansions was like, we want these to be easy, and we also want them to be nothing exclusive where you have to use it with anything else.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I love modular expansions, man. They're fantastic.
Yeah. And like some of the other ones that I haven't even touched on yet, like there's still like a couple of smaller ones that come out every now and then. Like there's some market cards that will come out that have like a picture of a tile, but has like a wall painted on it, where you can actually add a wall to a tile that doesn't already have a wall on it. So like you can build your wall up by, if you've acquired these cards at the price of not taking one of the other actions, I can take this card and build a piece of wall on a tile that doesn't already have one. Or like there's another one where it's like you mentioned before, like if you back 2 walls back to back, well, you can actually place that. And then there's one called the City Gate, where you get to put this little wooden piece down. Now that opens up, so that the big wall now opens up into that new area of the city. So it's kind of like a couple other ways that either one was opening up your city and one was closing off your city. And I think
yeah. So they kind of each play with elements that are existing in the base game. Like by opening back up your city or closing it off, like you said. That element, I also saw some of them have like there's triangular tiles, and I think the Falconers, right?
Oh yeah, what are they? I think they call them like the portals or something like that, where it's just kind of like you can like how you play it. We've only played with that one once, so I'm trying to remember back. But the way it does, it angles off your city into like another subdivision.
But you can keep building off of it then.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of leads it off into a different direction. They're angled purposely. Now your rest of your Alhambra is going to like work on an angle now off of your first part.
Just so that the road naming will get very confusing someday. The big comparison game that would have clubbed me on the head if I didn't mention it by the end of this episode is Carcassonne.
Oh yeah, we haven't mentioned that. I was wondering if that's going to come up.
It's tiling and it's got enough expansions to probably to fill a lot of storage units and storage containers that are going to be shipped across the ocean, because that's how board games get to you.
Yep. I own all the expansions to Carcassonne.
Whoa! Wow. So these two games then scratch totally different itches for you.
Yeah, I think Carcassonne is more about Alhambra is about the tile placement, but I think Alhambra is more about the acquisition of the different colored tiles. That the placement comes afterwards and trying to extend your wall or something like that. Whereas Carcassonne, it's all about placing the tile, and then all players are building towards the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
Yeah, Alhambra for me is more of like a set collecting thing. I'm collecting things to get points, whereas in Carcassonne, I'm strategically trying to place tiles so that I can optimally score points later on or right now or something along those lines.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, still a very easy entry level game in Carcassonne. And Carcassonne, I think, was 2000, if I recall correctly. So it would have been a few years prior to Alhambra. And I did a little bit of research here while you guys were continuing to explore the different expansions. And Dirk Henn, the designer of this game, actually had designed a game called The Gardens of Alhambra a decade before releasing Alhambra.
Huh.
The Gardens of the Alhambra. And this was 1993. And it's, you can definitely see some inspiration in that game, but it definitely does not appear to have the same area majority, and it has like one board. And yeah, I feel like that one's more like, here's the historical Alhambra, and we're going to try to like make a game with lots of different routes connecting, and players can mess around that way. But I just thought it was an interesting bit of history there. I wonder if that inspired him to make Alhambra itself.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've always, because there is another quote unquote big box where they call it the family box.
Yes.
Where I think it has these other Alhambra styled games, where I think it comes like the Alhambra the card game, Alhambra the dice game, the Gardens of Alhambra, and then another one. It's kind of like this other Alhambra collection that you can get outside of.
And isn't there one that's like Manhattan? Isn't Manhattan an adaptation of Alhambra?
Yes, I want to say yes.
Just straight up called Manhattan. I thought it was called Manhattan. Am I thinking of the right thing here? Like I feel like I'm not able to find it. There's one called Granada as well. Just a game called Granada, and I feel like that's related to this.
New York.
Well.
Called New York.
New York. That's it. Yes, it's called New York, and then yep. And from what I understand, I think that's just a re-theming.
Yeah, it's
of Alhambra.
Yeah, it looks, it feels like, I think I've played it once, and it's exactly the same game.
Huh.
Like literally, like when I said you could put this in space, building a space station, that's what you could probably do with this.
Yeah, it is. It's the same gameplay, but with the Spanish architecture being replaced by the skyscrapers of Manhattan. So if you really prefer the urban blight to like beautiful, timeless Moorish architecture, then play this.
Like
awful abomination. Yeah. This is great for people with bad taste.
Yeah, it's designed by the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same. It is. I don't understand its existence. But it's if you do, we're gonna buy it when it was Alhambra. Now you're gonna buy it when it's skyscraper building in New York. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be the same game, so who cares, right?
Yeah. If you didn't know if Alhambra existed for some odd reason, and you saw this one and played this one, you'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, and maybe even be like, oh yeah, I really like this game. New York's such a great game, and people are like, is that the one that's like Alhambra? And you're like, I don't know, I've never played Alhambra. And they're like, well, you really should play.
Let me show you all these expansions you can play with it.
Yeah, you're just stuck over there playing New York that has no expansions. Ironically, your game seems less advanced, even though it's set hundreds of years in the future. So, yeah, a game that's so popular that it's had a total reskinning into a different time period, and kind of one that just disappoints me a little bit. Not that, this is me subjectively saying all this and everything, but like the idea of building New York, I don't know where the wall aspect of the Alhambra, just wall building was a medieval city feature that you don't see in modern skyscraper building. Like why you'd have but maybe they have a different name for it. Maybe it's like this is a supply line, or like you're laying like electrical wire. Who knows?
Or rivers.
Yeah, rivers. Actually, that might be thematically more appropriate for New York. But yeah, don't give them any ideas here. I'm trying to make these people feel bad. No, I'm just kidding.
There's one of the modules. I'm going to speak about another module where where you build your wall matters, because there's what's called invaders that can happen.
Now that sounds amazing.
so during each scoring round, an invader card gets flipped up, and it says invaders are coming from the west. Well, however many pieces of your Alhambra are exposed to the west, you're going to lose that many points in the scoring round. Then the next round is like, it's going to come from the north. So if you have any exposed wall or exposed areas of your city to the north, well, you're going to lose points.
It's like asteroids in Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds an awful lot like that.
Yep. It's exactly like that.
That's cool, making it like a defensive aspect. I mean, it's cool theoretically. I feel like it would be a mess to try to figure that into everything, especially when you don't know where it's coming until like a little bit later. So there's only so much impact you can have.
Well, and then the bonus is if you can take the free turn. If you can take a free turn, you can peek at the invader card that's coming.
So even because people weren't already trying to get the free turn, it's like they needed more incentive.
So that was another interesting aspect with the wall building.
Yeah. So do you like when that one comes out? Do you like? Are you excited to play that one?
That was always interesting because with the potential of losing points, I strategically like, okay, now that one I actually have to start maybe building a lot sooner.
Yeah, actually, like getting your wall. Yeah, I might mess with round 2 and 3, with the round 2 and 3 meta strategy.
Yeah, because if I have a lot of exposed, well, on the flip side, if you don't have very many tiles in your building, you're not going to lose that many points because you don't have very many there.
Yeah.
So.
So there's a lot. There's so many expansions.
Yeah, we can talk about this forever. This is
the amount of games. I'm just sensing that like you've played this game. Can I make it? Do you have an exact figure of how many times you've played it?
Let me check my BGG stats.
Hold on. Can I make a guess before you shout it?
Okay. Well, okay. And I'll give a caveat. I've only been keeping BGG stats for the past year and a half.
Oh, so like for the most part, most of these games would have been played prior to your record keeping.
Yeah, but okay. Try to guess how many I've played in the last year and a half.
Well, I mean, I have such a hard time even reconciling that. Like, I'm not sure how much you played of this years ago, because I know what I'm like. I play this game, and then it just goes on the shelf.
I'd say the fact that he's playing it with his wife, I'm going over 30.
I think that's high, TC. I'm gonna say 18.
I know. Anytime my wife has a favorite game. It's usually the only game she wants to play when we play together. So I'm sticking to my 30.
All right.
Okay.
18, 30. What's the real number?
You said 18?
Yeah.
30? As of okay, 2 years ago. So as of 2 years ago, we've played this 19 times.
Damn it! Joe!
See, I'd first like to thank the latest big box of Alhambra for showing me direction in life, showing me that like it was the second big box that I'd like to thank because it brought in the 5th expansion, which previously was only available on its own.
Your guess 75. I was going low.
So this was from 2 years ago up to now, though.
Yeah, so we're probably saying at least triple that now.
Okay.
From like the very beginning. So we're probably like looking at least like 60 times.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, somewhere in the realm of that. I mean, when you've played each of these expansions so many times, like you've figured out what expansions you specifically want to play with all the time. And so how did you do that sort of research? Did you guys just sit down and try them one at a time? Or did you
throw them all together and was like, nope.
We just did it just the old school way. So like, hey, all 4 of these are in one package. Let's just play with all 4 of those right now.
Yeah.
All 4 of those are one package. Let's just play with all 4 of those. And we can honestly say like, yeah, those ones we didn't really care about. That one was good. That one didn't add complexity to the game at all. Let's just integrate that one right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So then we just went through all 6 of them like that. And we're like, okay, well, what if we just try picking the bits and pieces and keep the ones that we want all the time together? And actually it makes a really, really good game.
It's interesting because like sometimes the like smallest component footprint can end up adding so much to the game. Right. But like when I won't say when I am purchasing a game, it's like if I lift up a game box and I'm like, wow, feels like there's nothing in that. Like, it's like it's so unfair because the smallest components, like you could have 5 cards in a small stack and it just blows the game up huge, by the way that they're implemented. Right. It could be a role selection every single round. It could just be huge. And so that's like, to what extent I wonder, are they like, well, we needed a component hook in this one, and that's why we added the goofy, the goofy favors of the Sultan or whatever, the power of the Sultan thing. We needed it. They wanted a die. They've been clamoring for a die for so long. Nobody's ever gotten a chance to roll a die playing Alhambra. Now they can.
It seems to fit the mold.
Yeah,
I can honestly say I've never wanted to roll a dice while playing Alhambra.
Not you, sir. Not me either. But TC.
Somebody.
Yeah, I like dice, but I'm also good with other games sometimes, like Alhambra.
Yeah.
Oh, gentlemen, it is getting rather late. Is anything we're going to wrap up with before I pass out?
Well, there's 2 more modules. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a skeleton here.
So many modules.
Still more modules.
I got 3 more, and we haven't talked about the Feld one,
like
and the Davio one just turns into Legacy, and
Alhambra modules are the blob. There's more. Wait, what? There's more? What? No! That's awesome. Well, these, honestly, though, each of these have intrigued me. If not because I thought that it sounded like a great idea, but because I thought, like, I wonder what they were going for. And none of them sound as outwardly bad as, like, some of the expansions I was just reading up for, like, El Grande. It's like there's like 2 tiers of expansion for that game. There's like, we're talking about another game that's like hugely very old, one that we talked about on the Longview not too long ago. And it's like you've got your tier of expansion that are like, okay, people that really know and love the game want to play with this after they've played a certain amount of games. And that's what sounds like a lot of these modules are ones where, like, okay, once you've played the base game out, that's when you reach for this because it's, it's just a little bit more, something a little bit more to entertain and distract you. And then other expansions are going to be like these ridiculous, like, we need to add all this crap in. Like, nobody even knows what they were doing. The El Grande added like colonies and pick up and deliver. And it was like, what? Why? Yeah. And that's, I mean, you can kind of see that, but it does seem to me like there's a certain cohesiveness to these modules that feel to me like, I would see that, I can see what they're going for. I can see that they're toying with this aspect of the core game, and they're making this specific change that the designer clearly wanted, to play with.
Yeah, a lot of them kind of feel like somebody, like, it was like an afterthought, was like, do you know what would have been really cool is if we had a wild card. Oh, okay, diamonds. So let's make diamonds the wild card. Or like, you know what, I really wish I could trade currencies. Oh, well, there's the currency exchange card. So
if you end up with like a bunch of currency and you can't leverage it, that can make you think like, well, that would have been cool to have that, right? And then you've got the special abilities. To me, sounds interesting. It sounds like something that, like, it might be a bit more trouble just to like shuffle it in and have to explain it to new players, but like I could see.
Yeah, I didn't actually mention that with some of these expansions where you have to shuffle the cards in or add the some of the character cards, they can only come out at certain times. So yet when you're creating the piles, you have to create like these separate piles and shuffle these piles, then stack them on top of like pandemic style.
Oh, so you're like the bottom third of the deck and then shuffle these ones, like shuffle these 9 cards. Now pick 3 of those and shuffle those into the bottom third.
Yeah.
And now of those 9 cards, now they should have 6 left. All right. So take 3 of those.
Yeah.
So it does.
Some of those do add to the setup time, and like that wouldn't have been there in just the elegant base game of just take the cards, shuffle them, and then that's it.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
you can definitely add a little bit there, and maybe make it a little bit more of a monster than you originally bargained for. It's the what are those stuffed animals? The Beanie Babies. It's like. It's like it's supposed to be a Beanie Baby, but then you added on to it, and you made it the Frankenstein's monster of Beanie Babies. Now, you've taken stuff that had value, and you've made it worthless. Congratulations.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Malibu Stacy has a new hat.
Yeah, and it's missing a flipper. So it's I really do enjoy the game of Alhambra. It's one that's like, I'm not exactly sure where, like, I own the big box, and I'm like, I enjoy it, and I want to have access, especially to certain ones that you've mentioned. That's why I have the big box, because there are a few that are like indispensable, ones that are just like, we play with that all the time.
Yeah, those ones are pre-packaged off to the side in their own little Ziploc bag.
Yeah, nice. And then and the rest of that though, when I go through and read it, I'm like, I don't know, I'll try it, but I definitely enjoy what it looks to offer, and it's got like just that sort of, it makes me feel like a junkie, like few other games. Like I mean, a lot of times people feel like we use drug terms to describe, like, it doesn't scratch that itch, or just gateway game in and of itself is like a gateway drug. But honestly, to me, I do feel like I'm a bit of a junkie, and I'm a junkie for something I can never get enough, and that is cowbell, which in this game is the free turn. Free turn is the cowbell. Yes, I got a disease, and the only cure is another free turn. Yeah,
it's a free turn. It's a free turn. I get those free turns.
Yeah, like I get done with the game, and I'm just like, you had to pick me up off the floor, and I'm like, wait, free turn, one more. I had one more. I had enough left in my hand for that last time.
I don't think you need to do it. Don't matter. I'm taking it.
I love that aspect to it, and I think there are a few games that have that, just the sense of that rush, that euphoric sense that I get when I get a free turn to happen in Alhambra, and like I haven't gotten a chance yet to leverage that, that like, is it the right move or is it not the right move? But some of the pointers that you give me here, Ryan, I think will help me, to crush the opposition and tell that new player that move stinks of desperation.
You're a little bitter about that, aren't you?
I'm emotionally disturbed.
But the winner of the game is whoever takes the most free turns, right?
That is, yes. Every time you take a free turn, you make a tally, and that's it. That's the meta game. Well, whoever. Okay, that should be the tiebreaker. That you keep track of how many free turns you've taken. At the end of the game, if you have tied score, whoever has taken the most free turns wins.
I'm writing that one down right now.
It's the variant for me because I can't play that game any other way. I have to get the free turn.
And if you wipe the board, you win.
Yeah, that's it. You win. You own that copy.
All these side rules.
Yep. We're house ruling it, man. It's what you do when you love something. So, Ryan, it has been great to have you on here to the Longview. And thank you for coming on to talk about this classic game. I think that we'll be hearing more from you in the future about other games of yours that you've really enjoyed.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to have you back on to talk about another game. It'd be fantastic.
Oh, I've got quite the catalog. So if you throw a dart, you'll probably hit one. Yeah. So it's been great. It's been great. This has been one of my kind of like cardboard bucket list items, is just to come be a guest on another show. And I've been a long time listener, first time caller.
Oh yeah, so I guess we'll have to have him back, huh? I like all this flattery. Yes, please, we're great. Come back again. Yes.
Well, the best calls are ones that say, "So I've been listening to you guys for a while, and I used to really like it when you used to do that one thing."
We don't do that one thing anymore.
Yeah, we don't. We just
one hit wonders.
That one dead. We stopped doing that one thing ages ago, and you know what? We feel comfortable with our decision.
Yes, and we've moved on.
Well, you've done a great job on with this being your first episode of the Longview and your first time guesting. But Ryan, I want to hear more from you, both so before we take off, could you tell people where they can find more? Where can they find your top 10 and where can they find other stuff?
Yeah.
Of what nature from you?
Yeah, if you want to hear more about my thoughts on various games and things that I enjoy, you can find us on iTunes. It's Bridge City Boardgamers. And we've got 2 episodes where we got Cardboard Conjecture, where Norm and I just kind of talk about random games that we've been playing and that we've been enjoying. And then our second thing is that we got Cardboard in the Classroom, whereas we're taking a lot of our inspirations and love of board games and incorporating them into our classroom instructional designs. And that one's actually been getting a lot of positive feedback that we're kind of very gracious to hear about, because we didn't actually think that this was actually going to be a thing. We just thought, let's just throw it out there, see what people think. And then a lot of people are like, yeah, no, we want more. How often can you get us more? We're like, wow.
I didn't know you wanted to begin with. Okay.
Sure. No, I don't want to blow our load too soon, but so yeah, they can find us on iTunes, Cardboard Conjecture, Cardboard in the Classroom. You can find us on iTunes at Bridge City Boardgamers. At BC Boardgamers. That's what it is.
Excellent. Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for being on. I've got to go down the street and get my son who's being babysit, and I got 2 minutes to get down there to pick him up.
All righty. Well, TC, I'm going to be over here getting one last free turn.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
The last one. I said I was only going to do it once more, and then that was going to be it. That's it. That is it. It's going to be the last time, but just this once more.
God, okay. Well, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, take care.